In the heart of an ancient forest lies a village shadowed by a dark secret, one that has haunted its people for generations. A group of explorers, driven by curiosity and the desire to uncover the truth behind whispered legends of restless spirits and forbidden rituals, embark on a journey that will test their courage, their sanity, and their very will to survive. What begins as an adventure soon turns into a nightmare as one by one, members of the group face mysterious and deadly fates. But amid the darkness, a glimmer of hope remains, a chance for redemption, forgiveness, and a new beginning. This is a story of fear, sacrifice, and the enduring power of light in the face of overwhelming darkness. Join us as we unravel the chilling tale of the Forgotten Shadows. The email arrived at midnight. Lena, a young documentarian specializing in paranormal phenomena, stared at the glowing screen. The sender's address was anonymous. The subject line read only, "They never left." Inside was a brief message. "There is a valley where no birds sing, where no sun rises, and the dead speak. 7 must enter. Only 1 may leave. If you want to know the truth of the forgotten village, come to the edge of Schwarzwald Forest. Midnight, June 21st. Attached were grainy black and white photos, fog-drenched trees, half-buried gravestones, a wooden house split by lightning. One image showed a pale child staring at the camera, with no eyes. Lena's pulse quickened. She'd spent 5 years chasing haunted places across Europe, but nothing had ever felt this real or this dangerous. By morning, she had assembled a team. David, her cameraman and old friend. Emilia, a spiritual medium. Tobias, a skeptical linguist. Jonas, an archaeologist. Mira, a quiet sound technician. And Herrold, a local guide who never smiled. They met 3 nights later at a clearing by the edge of Schwarzwald, beneath a moon choked in clouds. Herr Roth looked each of them in the eye and said only one thing: "Whatever happens in that valley, you chose it." And with that, they disappeared into the trees. Behind them, the forest swallowed the moonlight whole. The forest changed as soon as they crossed the threshold. At first, it was subtle. The trees grew thicker. The air was denser, colder. A heavy mist curled at their feet, and the moon behind them vanished behind a wall of branches. David turned his camera on. "Still rolling," he muttered. No one spoke. The deeper they went, the more the silence seemed to press inward. Even Emilia, who normally murmured prayers or sensed spirits in the wind, was quiet. Only the crunch of boots on damp earth broke the hush. They walked for nearly an hour. The trail, if it could be called that, was little more than a deer path, winding between dead trees and thorny bushes. Roth led the way, his lantern bobbing like a ghost's eye in the dark. Suddenly, Tobias stopped. "Look at this," he said, brushing away leaves from a crooked wooden post. Carved into the wood, in faded ancient German, were words nearly lost to rot. "Vergessen, aber lebendig." Forgotten, but alive. Emilia stepped forward, her fingers trembling. "This is real," she whispered. "This place, it remembers." Jonas, the archaeologist, knelt beside the post. "This kind of craftsmanship, this isn't modern. Maybe 17th century. Roth only grunted and moved on. Moments later, the forest opened. Before them stood the village. It was small, maybe a dozen buildings, all in various states of ruin. Roofs collapsed, walls leaning, windows shattered. Yet something about them felt untouched by time. The moss was fresh, the wood damp, as if someone had only just left. In the center of the village was a well. Around it, 7 scarecrows stood in a circle, facing inward. Each wore a different item of clothing. An old red scarf, a child's cap, a pair of black leather gloves. And each had a wooden mask nailed to its head, the eyes hollow and mouth carved in a silent scream. Lena approached cautiously. "Why 7?" No one answered. David raised his camera and whispered, "This is gold. absolute gold. Just then, the wind shifted. A low moan drifted through the air, not mechanical, not natural, human. Mira turned pale. "Did you hear that?" Roth raised his lantern. "We should choose houses. It'll be dark soon." "But it's already night," Amelia said. Roth shook his head. "Not that kind of dark." They split up to inspect the buildings. Most were beyond repair, but 2 had roofs intact. The group decided to use the larger of the 2 as a base. It was a long house with a stone hearth and wooden benches along the walls. Inside, the air was musty but dry. Jonas examined the beams. "This place has been here for centuries. Remarkable." Roth unloaded his pack. "We stay together, no wandering off alone." Dinner was quiet. Canned food, water, and silence. Then came the whispers, faint at first, like wind through trees, but rhythmic, intentional, in a language none could understand. "Who's doing that?" Tobias asked, glancing around. They stepped outside. The scarecrows had moved. Now they faced outward. Panic rose. David filmed them, hands shaking. This wasn't like this before." "Right, you all saw them. They were facing the well," Lena said. "Maybe it's the wind," Jonas offered, though he didn't believe it himself. "Masks don't turn in the wind," Amelia muttered. The group debated what to do. Roth insisted they stay the night. "We're not running from shadows." Midnight came. The whispers returned, louder this time. Tobias couldn't sleep. He walked to the edge of the village, where the fog was thickest. He never returned. By morning, only his flashlight was found, half buried near the scarecrows. One had a new addition, a bloodied silver ring on its finger. "Tobias's ring," Lena screamed. The group descended into chaos, accusations, fear. Roth tried to keep order, but the unity was gone, Amelia prayed, clutching a cross. Jonas pored over maps, muttering about ley lines and burial grounds. Mira cried in a corner. David filmed everything, and the scarecrows watched. That evening, Jonas approached Roth. "I found something, old texts. This village, it was a settlement of outcasts, plague survivors, witch hunters. They were cursed by the last woman they burned. You think that's what's happening?" Jonas nodded. "Each scarecrow represents a sacrifice. 7 in total." Roth glanced at their group. "There were 7 of them now. If that's true," Roth said slowly, "we're part of the ritual." That night, Amelia vanished. Her rosary was found hanging from a tree. The next morning, a scarecrow wore a nun's habit. Now there were 5. Lena refused to eat. Mira tried to run but got lost in the mist. Roth brought her back, shaking and sobbing. Jonas tried to burn the scarecrows. They didn't burn. David played back his footage. In it, the scarecrows moved. Not just shifted, moved. They turned, twitched. One reached out. He dropped the camera. "We're not alone," he said. Roth didn't respond. He was staring at the well. Something had climbed out. The sun rose dimly over the forgotten village, casting a weak, pale light on the broken houses and the circle of scarecrows that remained silent watchers in the mist. The air was heavy with a thick, oppressive quiet that clung to their skin like a wet cloth. Only 5 of them were left. David's camera was still rolling, the red light blinking softly like a heartbeat. Roth stared into the well at the village's center. The water was black, still, as if it had swallowed the sun itself. Amelia was gone. The group was frayed, worn thin by fear and exhaustion. Lena had stopped speaking, and Mira's eyes were red from endless crying. Jonas paced nervously, muttering in German to himself, searching desperately for answers in the ancient texts he had brought. "We can't stay here," Jonas finally said. "We need to move before whatever's out there comes for us." Roth nodded silently, already aware of the growing danger. "We leave at dawn. We follow the path north. It should lead us back to the main road." But the path was no ordinary road. It was known in local legends as the Hollow Path, a route swallowed by the forest, haunted by spirits lost between worlds. Few who took it ever returned. As they packed their meager supplies, the sky darkened unnaturally. The mist thickened, swallowing the edges of the village and creeping toward them like a living thing. David checked his camera again. If this is our last night, I want the world to know what happened here. No one answered. The first steps onto the hollow path were tentative. The ground beneath their boots was soft, almost spongy, as if the earth itself was breathing. Trees loomed overhead, their branches twisting and writhing like grasping fingers. Shadows moved just beyond sight. Lena clutched Roth's arm, trembling. "Do you hear that?" A faint whispering rode the wind, unintelligible but filled with pain and anger. The whispers grew louder, surrounding them, pressing in. Mira sobbed openly now, clutching a small wooden charm that Amelia had given her before disappearing. Jonas stopped suddenly. "Look!" Ahead, the path opened into a wide clearing. At its center stood a massive, hollowed-out tree, its bark blackened as if burned. But the hollow was not empty. It was a doorway, dark and gaping. Roth swallowed his fear. "We go in." One by one, they stepped into the hollow tree, the air inside cold and stale. The darkness pressed close, swallowing their light. Suddenly, the ground beneath them gave way. They fell. They landed hard in a cavern, damp and echoing with distant drips of water. The walls were lined with ancient symbols, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. The smell of earth and decay filled their nostrils. David raised his camera, but the battery flickered and died. "Great," he muttered. Jonas examined the symbols closely. "This is a binding circle," he said. "It's meant to trap something, or someone." Mira whimpered. "We shouldn't be here." The group tried to find a way out, but every tunnel led deeper underground. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent, swirling around them like a storm. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Tall, cloaked in shadow, its face hidden beneath a hood. The whispers became screams. Roth stepped forward, heart pounding. "Who are you?" The figure's voice was a rasp, like dry leaves scratching the ground. "I am the keeper of the lost, the one who binds the forgotten souls to this place." Jonas's face paled. "You mean the curse?" The figure nodded slowly. "You were warned," it said, "but you came anyway." Suddenly, the cavern shook. Stones fell from the ceiling. The air grew colder, the darkness thicker. One by one, the group felt the grip of unseen hands dragging at their souls. Panic set in. David tried to film, but the shadows reached out, grabbing him, pulling the camera away. A scream echoed, then silence. Hours, or was it days, passed. Lena found herself alone, wandering the tunnels. The whispers had ceased. The air was still. She saw a faint light ahead. Hope. Rushing forward, she emerged into a sunlit forest. The trees were green and alive. Birds sang. She was outside the hollow path. Behind her, the forest sealed itself, the hollow tree nowhere to be seen. Lena collapsed, tears flowing freely. She had escaped, but as she looked down, she noticed something chilling. A wooden mask, carved with hollow eyes and a silent scream. One of the scarecrow masks. She clutched it tightly, knowing the curse had not yet ended. End of part 3. Ban muon min dich fan tri sang tieng viet luon kong. Hei muon min viet tiep fan fo luon. Ban janoi, viet fan naudik luon fan go. Chat GPT janoi. Duoi jai la, fan, tre, juong, mon hu kong. Ban jai ju tieng an. Kem dish sang tieng viet. Part 3. The Hollow Path. The sun rose dimly over the forgotten village, casting a weak, pale light on the broken houses and the circle of scarecrows that remained silent watchers in the mist. The air was heavy with a thick, oppressive quiet that clung to their skin like a wet cloth. Only 5 of them were left. David's camera was still rolling, the red light blinking softly like a heartbeat. Roth stared into the well at the village's center. The water was black, Still, as if it had swallowed the sun itself, Amelia was gone. The group was frayed, worn thin by fear and exhaustion. Lena had stopped speaking and Mira's eyes were red from endless crying. Jonas paced nervously, muttering in German to himself, searching desperately for answers in the ancient texts he had brought. "We can't stay here," Jonas finally said. "We need to move before whatever's out there comes for us." Roth nodded silently, already aware of the growing danger. "We leave at dawn. We follow the path north. It should lead us back to the main road." But the path was no ordinary road. It was known in local legends as the Hollow Path, a route swallowed by the forest, haunted by spirits lost between worlds. Few who took it ever returned. As they packed their meager supplies, the sky darkened unnaturally. The mist thickened, swallowing the edges of the village and creeping toward them like a living thing. David checked his camera again. "If this is our last night, I want the world to know what happened here." No one answered. The first steps onto the hollow path were tentative. The ground beneath their boots was soft, almost spongy, as if the earth itself was breathing. Trees loomed overhead, their branches twisting and writhing like grasping fingers. Shadows moved just beyond sight. Lena clutched Roth's arm, trembling. "Do you hear that?" A faint whispering rode the wind, unintelligible but filled with pain and anger. The whispers grew louder, surrounding them, pressing in. Mira sobbed openly now, clutching a small wooden charm that Amelia had given her before disappearing. Jonas stopped suddenly. "Look, ahead." The path opened into a wide clearing. At its center stood a massive, hollowed-out tree, its bark blackened as if burned. But the hollow was not empty. It was a doorway, dark and gaping. Roth swallowed his fear. "We go in." One by one, they stepped into the hollow tree, the air inside cold and stale. The darkness pressed close, swallowing their light. Suddenly, the ground beneath them gave way. They fell. They landed hard in a cavern, damp and echoing with distant drips of water. The walls were lined with ancient symbols, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. The smell of earth and decay filled their nostrils. David raised his camera, but the battery flickered and died. "Great," he muttered. Jonas examined the symbols closely. "This is a binding circle," he said. "It's meant to trap something. Or someone," Mira whimpered. "We shouldn't be here." The group tried to find a way out, but every tunnel led deeper underground. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent, swirling around them like a storm. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Tall, cloaked in shadow, its face hidden beneath a hood. The whispers became screams. Roth stepped forward, heart pounding. "Who are you?" The figure's voice was a rasp, like dry leaves scratching the ground. "I am the keeper of the lost, the one who binds the forgotten souls to this place." Jonas's face paled. "You mean the curse?" The figure nodded slowly. "You were warned," it said, "but you came anyway." Suddenly, the cavern shook. Stones fell from the ceiling. The air grew colder, the darkness thicker. One by one, the group felt the grip of unseen hands dragging at their souls. Panic set in. David tried to film, but the shadows reached out, grabbing him, pulling the camera away. A scream echoed, then silence. Hours, or was it days, passed. Lena found herself alone, wandering the tunnels. The whispers had ceased. The air was still. She saw a faint light ahead. Hope. Rushing forward, she emerged into a sunlit forest. The trees were green and alive. Birds sang. She was outside the hollow path. Behind her, the forest sealed itself, the hollow tree nowhere to be seen. Lena collapsed, tears flowing freely. She had escaped, but as she looked down, she noticed something chilling. A wooden mask carved with hollow eyes and a silent scream. One of the scarecrow masks. She clutched it tightly, knowing the curse had not yet ended. The forest around Lena was alive, but not in the way she expected. The bird song was distorted, twisting into a dissonant melody that crawled under her skin. The sunlight, once warm and comforting, now seemed cold and distant, like a memory slipping away. She clutched the wooden mask tighter, its weight both heavy and strange in her hands. It was as if the carved eyes were watching her, waiting. Her steps were slow, hesitant. The forest path curved endlessly, leading her deeper into the unknown. The trees grew taller, their trunks warped and gnarled, as if shaped by some dark force. Lena's thoughts raced. What had happened to the others? Were they really gone? Or were they trapped somewhere, caught in the same nightmare she barely escaped? She stopped near a stream, the water dark and thick like the well in the village. Her reflection was blurred, distorted. A whisper floated on the wind, faint but clear. Lena. She spun around, heart pounding, but no one was there. The forest grew silent again. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled. Roots burst from the earth, twisting like serpents, blocking the path behind her. Panic surged. Lena ran forward, but the forest shifted, the trees rearranging themselves. Every direction looked the same, a maze without end. She dropped the mask. It hit the ground with a hollow thud. As she bent down to pick it up, a cold hand grasped her wrist. Lena screamed. She woke up in darkness, bound by rough ropes. The smell of damp earth filled her nostrils. Around her, faint glows revealed shadowy figures, faces contorted in eternal agony, trapped between life and death. "Welcome back," a voice whispered. Lena's eyes widened. The voice belonged to Emilia. Emilia's face was pale, her eyes hollow. "You have to stop the curse," she said, "or we will never be free." The ropes tightened. Lena struggled. "How? Where?" Emilia's lips moved, but no sound came out. Instead, the symbols from the cavern appeared glowing on the walls. Lena's mind raced. Outside, the forest pulsed with a terrible energy. Roth, Mira, Jonas, and David were nowhere to be seen. The village was swallowed by mist, the boundary between worlds thinning. Somewhere, a bell tolled. A figure appeared in the mist, cloaked, silent. It raised a hand, and the echoes of the past filled the air. Lena's fight had only just begun. Lena's heart hammered as the cloaked figure approached. The mist curled around the stranger like a living thing, hiding all but the faint outline of a hooded face. Who are you?" Lena demanded, struggling against her ropes. The figure stopped a few feet away, voice low and chilling. "I am the keeper of the threshold," it said. "You meddle with forces you do not understand." Lena swallowed hard. "I'm trying to save my friends. They're trapped. They're lost," the keeper interrupted. "Their souls are bound to the curse that haunts this forest. Every step you take deeper binds you as well." The ropes around Lena loosened suddenly, and she fell to the ground, gasping. She rubbed her wrists and stood shakily. "What curse?" she whispered. The keeper moved forward, lifting its hood to reveal a face weathered by time, but with eyes sharp as a hawk's. "Long ago, a betrayal shattered the peace of this land," the keeper began. "A powerful ritual was cast, one meant to bind death itself. But it backfired. The souls of those involved were trapped here, caught in eternal torment. Since then, the forest became a prison." Lena's mind reeled. "Is there a way to break it?" The keeper nodded slowly. "The ritual must be reversed, but it requires a sacrifice. The curse feeds on fear and death, but it can be undone by courage and life." Lena clenched her fists. "What sacrifice?" "You," the keeper said simply. "Only one who willingly walks into the darkness and offers their own life can set the trapped souls free." A cold dread settled over Lena, but beneath it was something else. Determination. "I'll do it," she said quietly. The keeper reached out, touching her forehead. Lena felt a sudden rush of memories. Faces, places, pain, hope. The echoes of those trapped souls flowed through her. "You have one chance," the keeper warned. "One night to undo the curse before the forest consumes all." Lena looked into the keeper's eyes, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Outside, the village remained shrouded in mist. Shadows moved silently through the trees, whispers rising with the wind. The others' voices called out faintly, echoing in Lena's mind. Roth begging for help, Mira's frightened cries, Jonas's final words. Time was running out. Lena turned back toward the twisted path, the wooden mask clutched tightly in her hand. She would face the darkness. For her friends. For the souls trapped in eternal night. For herself. The night thickened as Lena ventured deeper into the cursed forest. The twisted branches above clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers, blotting out what little moonlight remained. The air was heavy, thick with decay, sorrow, and something darker, something waiting. Every step Lena took was measured, her breath shallow but steady. The wooden mask from the keeper's warning hung from her neck, cold against her skin, a silent talisman and a burden alike. It pulsed faintly, as if alive, reacting to the unspoken presence that lurked just beyond the veil of shadows. She followed the winding path laid out in the keeper's cryptic instructions, her ears straining for the faintest sound. The forest was alive with whispering voices, the echoes of those lost, the trapped souls still caught in the endless nightmare. Suddenly, a soft cry pierced the silence. Lena froze. "Hello," she called, her voice trembling. The cry came again. Low, mournful, desperate. She moved cautiously toward the sound, pushing aside thick vines and thorny bushes. Then, through the gloom, she saw a faint flicker of light. A small clearing opened before her, bathed in eerie pale light. At its center stood an ancient stone altar, worn and cracked, overgrown with moss and blackened by age. And there, chained to the altar, was a girl, no older than 16, her clothes tattered, her skin pale and bruised. Her eyes were wide with terror, shining wet in the moonlight. "Please," the girl whispered. "Help me." Lena's heart clenched. "Who are you? What happened here?" The girl's lips trembled. "I'm Alara. They captured me. The forest. It feeds on us, one by one. If the ritual isn't undone, I will be lost forever." Before Lena could respond, the ground trembled. A chilling wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it a sinister laughter, low, cruel, and echoing from all directions. The trees around the clearing seemed to shudder, their branches writhing like living serpents. Shadows peeled away from the trunks, coalescing into twisted figures, pale, gaunt, their eyes hollow and glowing with malevolence. "They're coming," Alara said, her voice barely audible. Lena stepped forward, shielding Alara with her body. She reached for the wooden mask, clutching it tightly. "Stay behind me," she commanded. The shadow creatures hissed, closing in like a tide of darkness. Lena felt a cold dread creep into her bones, but she forced herself to stand firm. Summoning every ounce of courage, she placed the mask over her face. Immediately, the world shifted. The shadows recoiled, screeching in pain as a brilliant light burst forth from the mask's carved eyes. The dark forms faltered, writhing and dissipating like smoke under sunlight. Lena could feel the ancient power of the ritual stirring within her, coursing through her veins like wildfire. The mask was more than a talisman. It was a key, a weapon forged in the very heart of the curse. "Alara," Lena said urgently, "we need to undo the ritual at the altar. Help me." Together, they moved toward the altar. Lena traced the carvings etched into the stone. Strange symbols, arcane runes that pulsed with a faint, eerie glow. She began to chant the reversal incantation the keeper had taught her, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her throat. The forest trembled violently, the shadow creatures shrieking in fury as the curse fought to maintain its hold. Suddenly, a sharp pain exploded in Lena's head. She staggered, dropping to one knee. "Alara," she gasped. The girl reached out, her hand brushing Lena's forehead. A wave of warmth spread through Lena's body, easing the pain. "Don't stop," Alara urged. "You're breaking it." The ground cracked beneath them. A deafening roar echoed through the forest as a colossal figure emerged. The heart of the curse itself. Towering and terrible, its body was a writhing mass of roots and bone, eyes blazing with eternal hatred. Lena felt her courage falter, but the faces of her lost friends flashed through her mind. Roth, Mira, Jonas. She would not let their deaths be in vain. Rising to her feet, Lena raised the mask high. The light flared brighter than ever, cutting through the darkness like a beacon. With a cry that shook the very air, Lena completed the incantation. The colossal figure screamed, its form unraveling into tendrils of black smoke that dissolved into the night. The shadows faded, the forest stilled, and for the first time in centuries, silence fell. Lena collapsed beside the altar, exhaustion overwhelming her. "Elara," she whispered, "are you safe now?" The girl smiled faintly. "Yes, the curse is broken." As dawn broke, light filtered through the trees, bathing the forest in golden hues. Lena knew the journey was far from over, but hope had returned. The forest was free, and so were the souls trapped within. The dawn's light brought relief, but Lena's mind was restless. The forest was free for now, but the scars of the curse ran deep. The voices in the wind had not vanished entirely. Faint echoes lingered, a reminder that the darkness might return. "Elara," Lena said softly as they walked through the thinning trees. "How long were you trapped here?" Elara's gaze dropped. 3 years. Since the night they came for me. They used me for the ritual, but I escaped before it was complete. Lena shuddered. "Who were they? What are they?" Elara's eyes darkened. "They are the Shadowborn, ancient beings bound to the forest's curse, feeding on the despair of lost souls. They want to reclaim the power that was taken from them when the ritual was broken." As they walked, the forest seemed to close in again. The shadows grew longer, twisting unnaturally. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from behind a tree. A man cloaked in tattered robes, his eyes cold and calculating. "You shouldn't have come here, Lena," he said, voice like gravel. Lena's heart raced. "Who are you?" "I am Malric," he said, a sinister smile curling on his lips. "Keeper of the old ways, guardian of the curse." He raised a hand, and the shadows surged forward, encircling Lena and Elara. Lena gripped the mask tightly, summoning its light once more. But Malric laughed, dark and mocking. "You think a trinket can save you? The curse is far older and stronger than you know." "Elara," Lena whispered, "we have to fight." With a burst of light, Lena shattered the shadows, but Malric disappeared into the trees, his chilling promise lingering. This is not over. The forest had fallen silent again, but an unsettling stillness hung in the air as Lena and Elara pressed onward, deeper into the heart of the cursed land. The oppressive weight of Malric's threat echoed in Lena's mind. This is not over. Every step seemed to draw them closer to an ancient secret long buried beneath the soil and shadow. Their path opened into a clearing dominated by the ruins of a forgotten sanctuary, a place that had once been a beacon of hope and protection, now only a hollow shell consumed by decay and dark magic. The stones were cracked, covered in moss and strange symbols that seemed to pulse faintly with an unnatural energy. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and something metallic, like old blood. Elara's voice trembled as she spoke. "This is where they perform the ritual, the heart of the curse. It's been abandoned for centuries, but the evil still lingers here." Lena approached the altar at the center, its surface stained with dried blood and arcane carvings. She could feel the malevolence radiating from it, a cold chill that seeped into her bones. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A deep, guttural growl echoed from the shadows, and a pair of glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness beyond the ruins. Lena tightened her grip on the mask. "Stay close, Elara. Whatever's out there, it's not human." From the darkness emerged a creature unlike anything Lena had ever seen. A twisted abomination, part beast, part spirit, its form shifting between solid and shadow. It snarled, advancing with terrifying speed. Lena barely had time to raise the mask, which emitted a brilliant light that forced the creature to recoil. Ilara, drawing on the courage Lena had kindled within her, stepped forward and began chanting an ancient incantation she had learned during her captivity. The creature screamed in fury, momentarily trapped in a cage of light and sound. But Malric's voice echoed once again, this time from within the ruins themselves. You may have driven one shadow away, but the darkness is endless. The curse will consume you all. Lena knew their fight was far from over. The sanctuary's secrets were deeper and darker than she imagined, and every moment spent here brought them closer to an inevitable confrontation with the true source of the curse. The sun dipped low, casting long, eerie shadows over the ancient sanctuary. Lena and Ilara, weary but resolute, camped near the ruins, their minds restless with questions and a gnawing sense of dread. The night was thick with silence, but beneath it, faint whispers seemed to ripple through the trees as if the forest itself was breathing secrets. Ilara sat by the dying fire, her eyes scanning the darkness. The curse. It's tied to something deeper than just this place. It's a living force. Lena nodded, pulling the mask close. Malric mentioned the true source. I think we're going to find out soon. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, twisting into voices, distant, yet painfully familiar. A cold breeze swept through the camp, carrying with it a faint, haunting melody. Lena's heart pounded. Do you hear that? Ilara nodded, voice barely a whisper. It's the song of the lost. Lena felt the mask pulse in her hands. She could almost see shadowy figures moving just beyond the firelight, trapped between worlds. Determined, Lena stepped into the darkness, the mask glowing bright enough to cut through the blackness. The whispers followed, growing into a chorus of sorrow and warning. As she ventured deeper, the forest seemed to shift, trees bending and twisting unnaturally, guiding her toward a hidden cavern beneath the ruins. Inside the cavern, ancient carvings covered the walls, stories etched in stone, telling of a forgotten ritual to bind a powerful spirit that had once threatened to destroy the land. But the ritual had failed, unleashing a curse that fed on the fear and death of those who dared to enter. Suddenly, Lena heard a soft voice, her mother's voice, calling her name from the shadows. She froze, torn between fear and longing. Ilara, she called back. Stay here. I need to see this through. As Lena stepped deeper into the cavern's heart, the walls began to glow, revealing a sealed door adorned with runes and symbols of protection. The door trembled, as if something powerful was trapped behind it, something that wanted out. Lena took a deep breath, gripping the mask tightly. Whatever lay beyond that door would decide their fate. The air inside the cavern was thick and heavy, pressing against Lena's chest like a physical force. Her fingers trembled as she reached out and traced the runes carved deep into the ancient stone door. Each symbol seemed alive, pulsating faintly with an eerie blue light. These are protective seals, Lena whispered to herself. They're holding something back, or maybe keeping it contained. Ilara's voice echoed from outside, trembling with worry. Lena, are you sure this is wise? We don't know what's behind that door. Lena swallowed hard, but felt an odd surge of determination. If we don't face it, this curse will keep destroying anyone who comes here. With slow, deliberate movements, Lena began to trace the symbols, whispering a prayer she barely understood, an old language Malric had taught her in hushed tones. The blue light flared, and the runes glowed brighter, the door starting to hum with power. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the cavern. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a chilling, guttural growl rumbled from behind the door. Ilara gasped. Lena, stop! We don't know what we're dealing with. But it was too late. The seals shattered one by one, and the door creaked open, revealing a swirling void of darkness. Alive, writhing with shadows that seemed to reach out like hungry hands. From the depths of the void, a figure began to emerge. Tall and terrifying, with eyes like burning coals, and a voice that sounded like the grinding of bones. I am Kael'thar, it hissed, bound by ancient chains, but your arrival has broken the bonds. Lena stepped back, heart pounding. The spirit's power radiated outward, freezing the air and chilling the soul. Ilara clutched Lena's arm. "What do we do?" Kael'thar's laughter echoed like a death knell. "You cannot stop me. This land shall burn in shadow." Suddenly, Lena remembered the mask, the key her mother had left behind. It pulsed in her hand, glowing fiercely. "This mask," Lena said, raising it, "is the seal you fear." Kael'thar snarled and lunged forward, shadows twisting like claws. With a cry, Lena lifted the mask and pressed it to her face. A blinding light exploded, enveloping the cavern and pushing the darkness back. The spirit screamed, a sound of rage and despair before it was sucked back into the void, the door sealing itself shut with a thunderous finality. Lena collapsed, breathless but victorious. The curse had been confronted, but at a terrible cost. Outside, Ilara waited anxiously. When Lena emerged, pale but alive, she knew their nightmare was only just beginning. After the terrifying encounter with Kael'thar, the team barely had time to recover. The cavern's oppressive darkness was lifted, but a new sense of unease settled over them. Lena's hands still trembled from the mask's power, and Ilara's eyes darted nervously around the dense forest that now seemed less welcoming. They gathered around a small campfire outside the cave's mouth, the flames flickering against the night's cold. Each member felt the weight of what they had witnessed, the chilling presence of the ancient evil still lingering in their minds. Malric broke the silence. Kael'thar was once a guardian, bound to protect the land from dark forces, but centuries ago he was corrupted by a rival spirit, twisted into a force of destruction. Lena's brow furrowed. If he was a guardian, why did they seal him away instead of destroying him? Because destroying him meant destroying a balance, Malric explained. Kael'thar's power was intertwined with the very essence of this place. Seal him away was the only way to stop him without unraveling the land itself. A soft whisper floated through the trees like a voice carried on the wind. The group fell silent, straining to hear. "Did you hear that?" whispered Jonas, the youngest of the group. His usual bravado was gone, replaced by genuine fear. "It's the forest," Malric said quietly. "The spirits here are restless. Our actions have disturbed something old, something not ready to be forgotten." Lena wrapped her arms around herself, staring into the fire. The mask in her bag pulsed faintly, as if reminding her that the battle was far from over. Suddenly, from the darkness beyond the camp, a faint figure appeared. It was an old woman, her face lined with age and sorrow. She stepped forward slowly, eyes reflecting the firelight. "I have watched your journey," she said in a voice trembling yet steady. "You seek to end a curse, but you must understand the price." The group exchanged uneasy glances. "Tell us," Lena urged, standing. "We need to know." The woman sighed deeply. "Long ago, a pact was made, a sacrifice bound to the land's fate. Every life taken, every shadow cast, is a reminder of that debt. To end the curse, you must not only face Kael'thar, but confront the past sins that bound him." Ilara's hand tightened on Lena's arm. "What kind of sins?" "Sins of betrayal, greed, and blood, spilled for power. Those who came before you hid their deeds beneath the roots of this forest." A chill ran down Lena's spine. The mask, the spirits, the ancient seals. Everything pointed to a deeper darkness that had been buried long ago. The woman looked toward the forest's edge. "If you wish to survive, you must walk the path of truth and redemption. Only then will the curse be lifted." With that, she turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving the group with more questions than answers. As dawn broke, Lena felt a strange resolve settle within her. The battle was not just against a vengeful spirit, but against the forgotten past that threatened to consume them all. The early morning light filtered through the thick canopy as the group packed their camp in silence. The old woman's words lingered heavily in their minds. Truth and redemption were the keys to ending the curse. But what did that truly mean? How could they face sins long buried by time? Lena adjusted the strap of her backpack, her fingers brushing against the faint pulse of the mask hidden inside. It was a constant reminder of the burden she carried and the power she barely understood. Malric took the lead, guiding them deeper into the forest toward a place he called the Sanctuary of Ancients. "This is where the pact was made," he said gravely. "If we are to face the past, we must start here." The path was narrow and overgrown, twisting between ancient trees whose roots seemed to grasp at the earth like hands desperate to hold on to secrets. The air grew colder, the forest quieter, as if the very life was being sucked away by some unseen force. Jonas, usually the most energetic, moved cautiously. "Do you think the spirits will forgive us?" he asked quietly. Ilara glanced at him. "They don't forgive easily, but they respect those who try to make things right." As they reached a clearing, the group stopped. In the center stood a massive stone altar, worn by centuries of weather and time. Strange symbols were carved into its surface, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. "This is it," Malric said. "Here, the first sacrifice was made to bind Kael'thar's power." Lena stepped forward, feeling a strange mix of fear and determination. She placed her hand on the cold stone, and a vision flashed before her eyes. Images of betrayal, battles, and a pact sealed in blood. The team watched in silence as Lena's body stiffened, her face pale. "The sins are deeper than we imagined," she murmured. Malric nodded. "We must confront the descendants of those who made the pact. Only by facing them and their hidden guilt can we hope to undo the curse." "But where do we find them?" Ilara asked. "Their blood still runs in the nearby village," Malric replied. "We need to go there next." As they prepared to leave the clearing, a sudden rustling came from the trees. Shadows moved quickly, and before they could react, ghostly figures appeared, surrounding them in a circle. "Guardians of the pact," Malric whispered, drawing his dagger. "We must prove our intentions." The spirit's eyes glowed with ancient anger, but Lena stepped forward, holding up the mask. "We seek to end the curse and right the wrongs of the past," she said firmly. The leader of the spirits paused, then nodded slowly. "Very well. Follow us, but beware. The path will test your courage, your heart, and your soul." The group exchanged nervous glances, but had no choice but to follow. The spirits led them deeper into the forest, toward a forgotten village where the past awaited its reckoning. The village lay crumbled, half swallowed by the forest's relentless grasp. Time had not been kind to the houses, and vines strangled the ruins like serpents. The group moved cautiously, every step echoing the weight of history. Malric paused at the village entrance, his face darkening. "This is the home of the descendants," he said. "But many have fled or disappeared over the years, afraid of the curse." Ilara scanned the eerie silence. "We need to find the elders. They hold the memories. Some truth still lingers in their words." The group split, some searching the remnants of houses, others venturing toward the small chapel still standing at the village's heart. Lena felt the mask throb against her chest, its presence growing stronger with every step closer to the village's core. In the chapel, they found an old man named Thomas, his eyes clouded but sharp when he spoke of the pact. "My ancestors tried to bargain with powers they could not control," he whispered. "They sealed their fate with blood and lies. Now, we live with the weight of that shame." Jonas asked, "Is there any way to break the curse?" Thomas's gaze pierced him. "The curse feeds on secrets and silence. Only truth, confessed openly, can weaken its hold. But beware, confessing can bring death before salvation." That night, around the dying fire, the group shared their fears and regrets. Lena revealed the mask's story, how it connected her to the curse and its victims. Slowly, trust grew as they prepared for the confessions that might save them all. But as dawn approached, a chilling scream shattered the night. Ilara was gone. The morning air was thick with dread as the group realized Ilara was gone. Panic rippled through them like a cold wave. They called her name, their voices swallowed by the dense forest that pressed close around the village ruins. Jonas took charge. "We can't stay here waiting. We have to find her." Lena felt the mask tighten against her skin, an ominous pressure building. She glanced toward the dark woods surrounding the village. The same woods the villagers had warned were cursed and alive with whispers. Malric's face was grim. "Those woods are no place for the living. Ilara must have been taken, or worse." They formed a search party, stepping cautiously beneath the thick canopy. Every crack of a twig or rustle of leaves set their nerves on edge. Lena could hear faint murmurs, like voices carried on the wind, but when she focused, they slipped away. Deeper into the forest, the light grew dim, shadows twisting into shapes. Suddenly, Lena's foot caught on a root, and she tumbled forward, catching sight of something half buried in the dirt. A silver pendant with a strange symbol, the same symbol etched faintly on the mask she wore. Jonas knelt beside her, eyes wide. "This belongs to Ilara." A chilling realization settled over the group. Ilara's disappearance was tied not just to the village's curse, but to something far older, something lurking in the whispering woods, hungry and waiting. That night, as they camped at the forest's edge, whispers grew louder, echoing from the shadows. Lena clutched the mask tightly, feeling the weight of the past and the urgency of the fight ahead. The night deepened, and the whispers in the woods grew louder, almost forming words, calling names. The group huddled close, their eyes scanning the darkness, hearts pounding with unease. Jonas tried to steady everyone's nerves. "These voices, they're the echoes of those who are lost before us. We have to listen carefully." Lena, feeling the mask's weight, closed her eyes and focused. The whispers formed a pattern. Fragments of stories, warnings, regrets. They spoke of betrayal, of ancient rituals gone wrong, and the binding of souls to the cursed village. Suddenly, a shadow moved swiftly through the trees. Malric lunged forward, but the figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. Panic surged again. Ilara's pendant glimmered faintly in Lena's hand, pulsing with an unnatural light. It was a beacon, a tether to the spirit trapped between worlds. The group realized the curse was not only a punishment, but a prison. They had to find a way to free the souls, including Ilara's, by unraveling the past's darkest secrets. But every step closer to the truth seemed to draw a darker force, a presence hungry to keep the curse alive, no matter the cost. With dawn breaking, the group gathered around an ancient stone altar deep within the heart of the cursed village. The air was heavy with a sense of foreboding, thick with the scent of moss and decay. Lena held Ilara's pendant tightly, the faint glow guiding their steps. Jonas spread out a fragile yellowed parchment discovered earlier, an old ritual text written in cryptic symbols and half-forgotten language. "We have to perform the ritual," Jonas said solemnly. "It's the only way to break the curse and free the trapped souls, including Ilara's." Malric's voice was low and hesitant. "The villagers said the ritual backfired the last time, unleashing something far worse. Are we prepared for that risk?" Despite the fear, there was no turning back. They began to prepare, following the ancient instructions meticulously. Lena felt the mask tighten, as if alive, reacting to the rising power around them. The ritual demanded sacrifice, not of blood, but of memories and regrets. Each member had to confront their deepest fears and darkest secrets, confessing aloud under the watchful gaze of the cursed altar. As the final words were spoken, a violent tremor shook the ground. Shadows twisted and writhed, and from the darkness emerged a figure, a spectral guardian bound to the curse, its eyes burning with centuries of pain. "Who dares disturb my prison?" it intoned, voice like the grinding of stones. Lena stepped forward, voice steady despite her pounding heart. "We seek to end the curse and free the souls trapped by past sins." The guardian's form flickered. "Only those willing to face the truth and sacrifice their own burdens may pass." The spectral guardian's eyes burned like coals. illuminating the altar's ancient carvings as it spoke, its voice echoing through the clearing. Before you may break the curse, each must offer a truth, a memory long buried, a regret that chains your soul. Only then will the bonds unravel. A heavy silence fell. One by one, the members of the group hesitated, wrestling with the weight of their own secrets. Lena was the first to speak, voice barely a whisper. When I was a child, I ran away from my family. I left them to suffer alone while I chased my dreams. I carry that guilt every day. Jonas nodded solemnly, then confessed, I was the cause of a fire that destroyed my village. I hid my role out of shame, letting others take the blame. Malric's eyes were shadowed with pain. I betrayed my closest friend for ambition. I've lived with that betrayal eating me from inside. One by one, the truths spilled forth, each confession loosening the invisible chains that bound the cursed souls to this place. But as the last words faded, the Guardian's form grew larger, darker, and more imposing. You have begun to free what was trapped, yet the final burden remains, the truth no one dares face. Lena stepped forward, heart pounding. What is it? The Guardian's voice dropped to a whisper, chilling the air. The curse was born not of sins alone, but of fear and hatred passed down through generations. To break it, one must face the ultimate truth. The curse itself is alive, and it feeds on despair. Suddenly, the altar's glow flared, engulfing the group in blinding light. Shadows stretched and writhed, reaching for them like living tendrils. Lena felt the mask tighten, as if binding her very soul. Panic surged, but she clenched her fists and steadied her breath. Jonas shouted, "Hold on, we're almost free." Together, they summoned every ounce of courage, every shred of hope, confronting the living curse that sought to consume them. The battle was not one of weapons, but of wills. Memories flashed, pain, loss, love, and forgiveness, all weaving a tapestry of light against the darkness. Slowly, the tendrils withdrew. The shadows receded, and the oppressive weight lifted. The curse was breaking, but the Guardian's final words echoed in Lena's mind. True freedom demands sacrifice. Are you prepared to pay the price? The clearing lay silent after the battle, the dawn sun casting soft light through the ancient trees. The oppressive darkness had lifted, but the price was clear. To truly break the curse, someone had to make a sacrifice, one that would bind their soul forever. Lena stood at the altar, the mask heavy on her face, her heart pounding with the weight of the decision. Around her, the others looked at her with a mixture of fear and hope. The curse is a living entity, Jonas reminded them, voice steady but somber. It demands a soul willing to remain behind, to hold the prison closed. Malric swallowed hard. Who among us can bear that burden? No one answered. The silence grew heavy. Lena's fingers trembled as she reached up, touching the mask's cold surface. Memories flashed. Her family left behind, the guilt she carried, the chance to save the souls trapped here, including Alara's. I will do it, she said finally, voice firm. I'll stay. You must all go back. Protests rose, but Lena raised a hand, quieting them. This is my atonement. If I don't stay, no one will be free. Jonas stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. We will never forget you. With that, Lena stepped onto the altar. The mask glowed, sealing her fate. The others felt the ground tremble as shadows coiled around her, binding her spirit to the ancient prison. Then, as if a great weight lifted, the village around them seemed to breathe freely for the first time in centuries. The survivors turned and began their journey home, carrying the story of sacrifice and hope with them. Though the curse remained alive in Lena, her sacrifice had broken its hold on the world. As the survivors trekked back through the dense forest, the weight of what had transpired pressed heavily on their hearts. The oppressive gloom that once hung over the land was lifting, replaced by a newfound sense of hope. Jonas carried Lena's mask carefully, a silent reminder of her sacrifice and the courage that had saved them all. Each step forward felt lighter, as if the very earth beneath their feet was healing. When they finally emerged from the woods, the village they once knew was transformed. Sunlight bathed the streets, flowers bloomed where shadows had reigned, and the air carried the scent of renewal. Word of their journey spread quickly. The villagers, who had lived in fear for generations, began to reclaim their lives with cautious optimism. Jonas, Malric, and the others shared tales of their encounter with the spectral guardian and Lena's heroic stand. Though her physical presence was gone, her spirit lived on in the hearts of all. But amid the celebrations, Jonas knew the darkness was never truly gone, only contained. The mask, now resting in the village chapel, was a symbol of vigilance and sacrifice. As night fell, the village glowed not with fear, but with light. A beacon for those who seek redemption and the courage to face their own truths. The village awakened the next morning bathed in soft golden light, alive with the laughter of children and the bustle of daily life. The darkness that had long haunted their nights was gone, replaced by a peaceful calm that seemed almost miraculous. Jonas, Malric, and the remaining members of the group gathered at the chapel, where Lena's mask rested on a pedestal surrounded by flowers. The mask no longer carried a sinister aura. Instead, it glowed gently, a symbol of hope and sacrifice. As villagers came to pay their respects, they shared stories of Lena's bravery and the courage it took to confront the unknown. Her sacrifice had not only freed the trapped souls, but had united a fractured community, healing old wounds and fears. Jonas looked around and smiled, feeling a deep sense of closure. The horrors they faced had changed them all, but it also forged an unbreakable bond. A reminder that even in the darkest times, light and love could prevail. The forest beyond the village grew lush and vibrant, no longer a place of fear, but of life and renewal. New paths were forged, and with them came a new era for the village. One of hope, unity, and the promise of brighter days. As the sun rose high, Jonas whispered a silent thank you to Lena, the guardian of their redemption, whose spirit would forever watch over them. Thank you for joining us on this haunting journey through the forgotten shadows. Though the darkness was deep and the path treacherous, the courage and hope of those who dared to face the unknown remind us that even in the darkest moments, there is always light waiting to be found. May this story stay with you, a reminder that redemption is possible, and that sometimes the greatest mysteries lead us to the greatest truth. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep the light alive